Hi everyone, my name is Amanda. Today I am going to be attempting to make my first geode cake. I've seen a lot of these on Pinterest and they look so amazing. So I went out and got the supplies, and today I am going to attempt to make my first one. They are absolutely stunning, so I'm hoping my results will be the same way. So I hope you enjoy this tutorial if you're making your own geode cake or just have fun watching it. Let's get started. So here I'm just whipping up some buttercream frosting. Because I am going to be putting fondant over this cake today, I do want the frosting to be a little bit on the thicker side, just so that it will be firm enough to put that fondant over, and it really helps the cake to keep its shape under all of that. So I'm just giving you a quick shot of what my frosting looks like. I did go ahead and use some vegetable shortening along with butter, along with powdered sugar and milk. I also added some almond and vanilla extract to this. You can tell the consistency is pretty thick, just because I want this to be able to stick and really hold its shape. Once I put it on the cake, we'll chill it out a bit. And then that will really help the fondant to have a nicer shape underneath, and you won't have any of that buckling from a softer frosting. So I'm just making a really little cake actually today so that I could try this out, because I don't have anywhere to put all of this cake. So sometimes even if you follow all of the baking guidelines, mine kind of puffed up on the top here. That's why this cake leveler here is one of your best friends with cakes. You basically set the gauge of how high you want your cake to be, and then you just kind of hold it like this, and then in a sawing motion back and forth, you're able to actually remove the top of the cake, leaving you with a perfectly smooth surface. So you can see I've already measured on both sides. There's little notches that you can get them on the same clips so that your cake will be perfectly level. And then you just take a little bit of a sawing motion like this back and forth. I'm just going to keep going through it all the way to the other side. Okay, so once I've gone through it with the leveler, you can kind of just take the top, pop it right off, and you're left with a perfectly level top to your cake. So I went ahead with that same leveler. Not only does it make the top of your cake perfectly flat, it's also, I'm going to be filling this with buttercream or possibly strawberry jam. So whatever you're going to be filling your layers with, it makes perfect layers if you run it all the way through the center of the cake. So now I have two perfect layers that are exactly the same size. So as you can see, I went ahead and I leveled and split all the layers of my cake. As I mentioned, I am making a pretty small layer cake just so that I could experiment with the technique of the geode cake and see what it would look like. I can't think of anything more boring than baking cake. So now we're kind of getting to the fun part where we can start filling the layers. We're going to do a crumb coat of frosting, and then from there I will put them out in the garage. It's cold here right now, so that will firm up the frosting. If not, you can always pop it in your fridge if you have room. So I have my first layer down. I went ahead and I piped a border of frosting on the inner layer, and then I filled some strawberry jam in between the layers of frosting, just so that it won't be sliding around as much when I put the top layer on, and the frosting will really keep things held up a little bit better. So I went ahead and I filled all of my layers and then did a crumb coat. I let them sit out in the garage for a while just to set up a little bit in the cold. And then I did a final frosting. Now this frosting is not in any way perfect, but we are going to be covering it with fondant, and we're also going to be cutting into it a little bit to start to make our geode shape. So I'm not too worried about the actual buttercream being absolutely perfect, as it would be if we were not covering the cake with fondant. So I've covered my surface with some powdered sugar just to help so that the fondant does not stick. I'm using this antique white. You could use a bright white, obviously, whatever color you want. I'm going to take a tiny bit of purple, and I'm just going to kind of mix it through with the white so I get a marbleized, more of an amethyst color. So I didn't mix this completely because I want bits of the purple to show through. As you can see, I just kind of mix the purple in with the antique white, so we have a bit of a marbleized amethyst color to it. So now I'm going to roll it out, and you just want to make sure that you roll it to double the size you're actually going to need to cover your base layer of cake. And this is the fondant rolled out. I just mixed that purple in with the antique white, and it is beautiful, the marbling effect that it got. The lighting's a little bit cool. It's a little bit warmer of a purple, but I think that's going to look really gorgeous on the first layer. So let's wrap it up. So here I have draped the fondant over my first layer of the cake. Obviously have all this excess, but you just kind of want to smooth out the top, make sure that you get any air pockets out, and kind of follow that line around, smoothing it down. So then we're just going to take a knife or pizza cutter type tool, and we're just going to trim around the base of this to get the excess off of it. So as you can see here, I have stacked my little cake. I had it out in the garage for a while so that it would chill and get just a little bit firmer so that we could start working with it. So I'm basically just going to find, I guess, an area that I messed up on because we are going to be carving out some of it. So I kind of buckled the fondant just a little bit here when I was smoothing it down. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut from this side of the cake, and that will be a perfect use of those mistakes and a good place to start putting our geode. So if you haven't guessed, the secret ingredient is rock candy. You can see that my fingers are purple. I would buy these on Amazon because you can get them just in the crystals. I broke them off the sticks and they are very highly pigmented. And then I also have some white here as well. Okay, this is such a tiny little cake. It was horrible to remove this much. I might have taken a little too much, but I've basically carved into the side of the cake. And I've dug where our geode is going to go, and we're going to start placing our crystals. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take buttercream and fill in this gap, not fill in, but just cover it, and we will go from there. So I skipped a few steps here, but basically I filled this in with buttercream. Then I put some piping gel, and then I just started layering my rock candy from the inside to the out, working into a whiter color. I mixed some of the pearl pigments with piping gel for the gray around the outside, and then again the same thing with the gold. And then again I just layered a few pieces of rock candy around for effect. But overall, absolutely beautiful cake, and I would definitely make it again. Came out really well.